Okay, last example here. So now I want you to try and find values for theta. So this is the opposite of what we did a few slides ago back here, where I gave you an angle and I wanted you to come up with the value of the trig function at that angle. Now I'm giving you the value and I want you to find two angles. Or, well, in this case all of the answers are going to have two angles. They won't always have two angles. But, so here, I want you to find theta between 0 and 360 degrees. Notice that we're including 0, but we're not including 360. And I also want you to find it in radians, between 0 and 2 pi radians. Again, including 0, but not including the 2 pi. And I want you to find all of the angles, which in this case there's going to be 2 for each of these. So there's going to be 2 answers in degrees here, and 2 answers in radians, 2 answers in degrees, 2 answers in radians. From the unit circle. So where does tangent of theta equal negative root 3 over 3? Where is cosecant of theta undefined? And then where does cosine of theta equal 0.4512? And where does tangent of theta equal negative 1.5? Now for these two down here, you're going to need to use your calculator and your understanding of which trig functions are positive and which ones are negative. As far as quadrants, to help you find all of the angles. So the top two should just come straight from the unit circle. The bottom two you're going to have to use your calculator using the inverse function on the calculator, so you would do second cosine and second tangent to find the angle. So pause the video and unpause it when you're ready to check your work. Okay, so again, hopefully the tangent of theta equaling negative root 3 over 3 and the cosecant of theta equaling undefined were pretty straightforward. So where is tangent negative? Well, tangent is negative in the second and the fourth quadrant. And basically what I'm asking myself is, if I divide the y by the x value at an angle in, for instance, the second quadrant, when is that going to equal negative root 3 over 3? Well, that's going to be at 150 degrees, where the y value is 1/2 and the x value is negative root 3 over 2. That's also 5 pi 6. The same thing is going to be true at 330 degrees, where now the y value is negative 1/2 and the x value is root 3 over 2, and that's also at 11 pi 6. Cosecant, well, where is cosecant going to be undefined? Well, what's going to make it undefined? Well, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So if the sine is 0, then the cosecant is going to be undefined. So where is the y value 0? Well, that's going to be at 0 degrees, 0 radians, 180 degrees, and pi radians. Again, we don't include the 360 and the 2 pi because of the restrictions up here. Now for the next ones, here you had to do a little bit of work. So first, if my calculator is in degree mode, and I type in the cosine inverse of 0.4512, I'm going to get 63.179 degrees. If my calculator is in radian mode, and I type in the cosine inverse of 0.4512, I'm going to get 1.103 radians. Okay, so that's one of my angles. Now I need to understand cosine. Well, if I look down here, I drew a picture to hopefully help you understand. 63 degrees is in the first quadrant. Cosine is positive, and I know that this is positive because 0.4512 is a positive number, in the first quadrant and in the fourth quadrant. So I need to find the location that's going to have this same angle if I drew a triangle in the fourth quadrant, though. So if I look here, that's going to be where this is negative 63.179. So the actual positive angle that I want to find, because I'm looking for an angle between 0 and 360 degrees, is going to be this angle, which is 296.821. So that comes from doing 360 minus 63.179. I did the same thing to get the radians, except for instead of using 360, I used 2 pi. So if I do 2 pi minus 1.103, I get 5.180. Over here for tangent, it's a little bit more difficult now, because when I first type this into my calculator, I don't get an angle within my restrictions. Remember, my restrictions were 0 to 360 degrees, or 0 to 2 pi. So if I type in tangent of negative 1.5, I end up with a negative angle. And that angle that I get is negative 56.31. That's in the fourth quadrant. So all I have to do is I have to figure out what is the coterminal angle that's the same as that in the fourth quadrant. So if I do 360 minus 56.31, I end up with 303.69. I do the same thing for the radians. So when I type in tangent inverse of negative 1.5, I'm going to do 2 pi minus that number to get 5.300. Now, where else is tangent negative? So tangent is negative in the fourth quadrant. It's also negative in the second quadrant. So I need to find the equivalent angles in the second quadrant. Well, the thing I want to understand is, again, that the angle always has to create the same right triangle. So if I have an angle for a right triangle here, and again, the right triangle that I'm talking about is always going back to the x-axis. So that would be our right angle. And here, this would be my right angle. These have to be similar triangles, because they need to have the same angle here, a 90-degree angle, therefore that other angle has to be the same as well. So by angle, 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 I know they are similar triangles. If they're similar triangles, then the tangent value is going to be the same. So this angle is 56.31, but the angle that I actually care about is this one. So if I do 180 minus 56.31, that's how I get the 123.69. And then the same thing is going to be true for the radians. I'm going to do pi minus the value that I got before. So that's how I get 2.159. So those are our values. Okay, so in conclusion, we want to make sure we understand the trig functions, evaluating a trig function from the unit circle, understanding the period of each trig function, understanding which ones are even and odd, evaluating trig functions with a calculator. So again, using the inverse function. So if you're confused, real quick, I'll just show you what I was talking about with the calculator. First, we want to check our mode. So I'm in radians. Okay, that's good. So if I do second tangent of negative 1.5, so this is the radian angle. This is in the fourth quadrant, but it's not between 0 and 2 pi. So if I do plus, since this is negative, I can do plus. So if I do plus 2 pi, that's how I got the 5.300. And if I do the same thing again here, so I get that angle, and then if I do plus pi, that's how I got the 2.159. Okay, so we want to make sure we know how to do all that. Tomorrow there is going to be a quick quiz. It'll be 10 minutes long. It's all multiple choice on evaluating trig functions, arc length, linear and angular velocity, and coterminal angles. I'll take any questions before the quiz though, but it'll be towards the beginning of the period.